3 days after the ultimatum expired, Captain Jake Morrison received the alert he had been dreading. Long-range sensors detected a massive alien fleet entering the Proxima Centauri system, where the human colony of New Austin housed nearly 2 million people. Jake stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, studying the tactical display. 12 Zephyrian warships had appeared near the edge of the system, their sleek silver hulls gleaming under the light of the red dwarf star. Each ship was at least 3 times larger than his vessel, and they moved with the confidence of predators, approaching helpless prey. "Captain," Lieutenant Sam Carter reported from her station, "the alien fleet is broadcasting a surrender demand to New Austin Colony. They're giving the civilians 6 hours to evacuate before they begin orbital bombardment." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. The aliens had expected to find empty space or fleeing human ships. Instead, they would discover that Earth's children did not abandon their homes without a fight. "Signal the Henderson mining station," Jake ordered. "Tell Captain Murphy to begin Operation Asteroid Shield." The plan was Jake's idea, born from studying the Proxima system's unique geography. Unlike most star systems, Proxima Centauri had a dense asteroid field between the 4th and 5th planets created by an ancient collision between 2 moons. The rocks provided perfect cover for smaller ships like the Vanguard. Captain Lisa Murphy of the mining vessel Henderson acknowledged the signal. Her ship, along with 3 other mining platforms, had been secretly modified with military-grade weapons over the past month. The aliens expected to fight a traditional space battle, but humans had learned to adapt and use their environment. Jake watched as the Zephyrian fleet moved toward New Austin in a standard attack formation. Their ships stayed close together, trusting their shields and armor to protect them from any human resistance. They had no idea that 6 Earth Defense Fleet vessels were hiding among the asteroids, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "All ships, this is Morrison," Jake spoke into his communicator. "Remember, we hit fast and hard, then disappear back into the rocks. Don't try to match them shot for shot. Use their size against them." The alien fleet was halfway to New Austin when Jake gave the attack order. The Vanguard burst from behind a massive asteroid, its plasma cannons firing at maximum power. The first salvo caught the lead Zephyrian ship by surprise, sending blue energy bolts crashing into its side shields. Lieutenant Carter's fighter squadron launched from the Henderson, 12 small craft that moved like angry wasps around the much larger alien vessels. The fighters used attack patterns that Carter had developed during war games, sudden direction changes and split-second timing that confused the alien targeting systems. The Zephyrian ships tried to return fire, but their massive energy weapons were designed for long-range battles against large targets. The human ships were too small and too fast, darting between asteroids and using the rocks as shields. Jake watched his tactical display as the battle unfolded. The alien commander was clearly frustrated, ordering his ships to spread out and try to surround the human forces. But this only made them more vulnerable to hit-and-run attacks. "Captain Murphy, take your group and hit their rear ship," Jake commanded. "Carter, keep your fighters focused on their communication arrays." The mining ships emerged from another section of the asteroid field, their improvised weapons blazing. Captain Murphy had replaced her mining lasers with military-grade cutters that could slice through alien hull armor like paper. Her ship, the Henderson, lived up to its reputation as the toughest vessel in the outer colonies. The battle lasted only 20 minutes, but it felt like hours to Jake. When the shooting stopped, 3 Zephyrian ships were drifting dead in space, their hulls cracked open and atmosphere venting into the void. 2 more were badly damaged and retreating toward the system's edge. The human fleet had lost the cargo ship Portland and 6 fighters, but they had achieved something nobody thought possible. They had defeated a superior alien force through tactics, courage, and refusal to fight by the enemy's rules. "Captain," Carter reported, her voice excited, "we're receiving a message from New Austin Colony. They're requesting permission to send rescue ships to recover alien survivors." Jake nodded. Even in war, humans tried to show mercy to defeated enemies. It was one of the things that made them different from the cold, arrogant aliens who had threatened their homes. 2 hours later, Jake stood in the interrogation room aboard the Henderson, looking at the alien prisoner they had rescued from one of the destroyed ships. The Zephyrian was smaller than Supreme Commander Vextar, with lighter blue skin and only 2 arms. Its red eyes showed fear rather than arrogance. "What is your name and rank?" Jake asked through the translation device. They had recovered from the wreckage. "Sub-Commander Kreltos of the 3rd Battle Group," the alien replied. You were not supposed to fight. Our intelligence said humans would surrender when faced with superior force." Jake leaned forward. "Your intelligence was wrong. What else did it tell you about humanity?" The alien's eyes widened. "That you were a young species, barely capable of interstellar travel. That your weapons were primitive and your tactics predictable. That you valued individual lives more than strategic objectives." "The last part is true," Jake admitted. "But it doesn't make us weak. It makes us fight harder." Over the next several hours, Jake learned that the Galactic Council had been studying humanity for years through long-range observation. They had seen human wars and conflicts, but had misunderstood what they meant. To the aliens, the fact that humans fought each other proved they were chaotic and undisciplined. They had not realized that this same conflict had taught humanity to be adaptable and creative in battle. The news of the victory at Proxima Centauri spread throughout human space faster than any official communication. Colonists who had been preparing to evacuate instead began organizing militias. Mining stations started converting their equipment into weapons. Even civilian cargo ships volunteered to carry supplies and messages between the outer systems. Admiral Warren sent Jake a personal message congratulating him on the victory, but also warning him that the real war was just beginning. The Galactic Council would not be caught off guard again. They would send larger fleets with better intelligence and more careful tactics. Jake understood the Admiral's concerns, but he also felt something he had not expected. For the first time since receiving the alien ultimatum, he was optimistic about humanity's chances. The battle at Proxima Centauri had proven that size and technology were not everything in war. Intelligence, courage, and the willingness to adapt could overcome seemingly impossible odds. Sub-Commander Kreltos had asked Jake why humans continued to fight when they were clearly outmatched. Jake had thought about the question for a long time before answering. "Because these are our homes," he had said simply. "Because our families live here. Because we would rather die fighting than live on our knees." The alien had seemed confused by this answer, which told Jake everything he needed to know about their enemies. The Galactic Council understood technology and military strength, but they did not understand the human heart. That would be their weakness. As the Vanguard headed back to Luna Station for repairs and resupply, Jake began planning the next phase of the war. The aliens had made one crucial mistake in their ultimatum. They had given humanity time to prepare, time to think, and time to get angry. Now they would discover what happened when humans decided to fight back. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the EDS Vanguard, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The ship was patrolling near the Titan mining colonies, where thousands of workers extracted precious metals from the moon's surface. It was supposed to be a routine mission, the kind that let him catch up on reports and give his crew some easy duty time. The communication officer, Lieutenant Sam Carter, looked up from her console with a worried expression. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from an unknown source. It's coming through on all frequencies." Jake turned toward her station. "Put it on the main screen." The stars disappeared, replaced by the image of a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. The creature wore elaborate golden armor that seemed to shift and move like liquid metal. When it spoke, its voice was cold and filled with arrogance. "Humans of the Sol system," the alien began. "I am Supreme Commander Vexitar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are receiving this message because your species has violated the sacred boundaries established by the Galactic Council. Your expansion into the outer sectors ends now." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had heard rumors about alien contact, but Earth's government had kept most information classified. This was the first time he had seen one of them face to face. The alien continued speaking. "You have colonized 12 star systems that belong to the rightful members of our alliance. Your mining operations and settlements are illegal. You have 72 of your hours to withdraw all human presence from these territories. If you refuse, we will remove you by force." The transmission showed a star map with red zones marking the contested areas. Jake recognized several human colonies, including New Austin, Port Liberty, and the Henderson mining station. Millions of people lived in those systems. "Do not mistake our warning for weakness," Vextar said. "We have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. Your primitive weapons and small fleet pose no threat to our combined forces. Comply, or face extinction." The screen went black, returning to the view of space. The bridge was silent for several seconds. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same mix of fear and anger on their faces that he felt in his chest. "Carter, get me a direct line to Luna Station," he ordered. "Priority Alpha." Within minutes, Admiral Lisa Warren appeared on the screen. She was a tough woman in her 50s who had worked her way up through the ranks during the Mars Rebellion 20 years earlier. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes were sharp and focused. "Morrison, I assume you received the same message we did," she said without waiting for pleasantries. "Yes, Admiral. What are your orders?" "Return to Luna Station immediately. We're calling an emergency session of the Defense Council. Every ship. Captain and senior officer needs to be here within 18 hours. Jake nodded. "Understood. What about the colonies in the contested zones?" Admiral Warren's expression darkened. "We're sending messages to all civilian authorities, but we can't order an evacuation without approval from Earth's government. The politicians are still arguing about whether this is real or some kind of hoax. Admiral, I've seen these aliens before in classified reports. They're not bluffing." "I know, Captain. That's why we need to be ready for whatever comes next." The trip to Luna Station took 16 hours at maximum speed. During the journey, Jake studied everything the Earth Defense Fleet knew about the Galactic Council. The information was limited, but what they had was disturbing. The Alliance included at least 6 different alien species, each with technology centuries ahead of humanity's. Their ships were larger, faster, and carried weapons that could destroy entire planets. When Jake arrived at Luna Station, he found the conference room packed with officers. Admiral Warren stood at the head of the table while holographic displays showed the positions of human colonies and the alien ultimatum. Commander Ryan Blake, a careful man who preferred diplomatic solutions, spoke first. "Admiral, we need to consider the possibility of negotiation. If we evacuate the contested systems voluntarily, we might be able to avoid a war we cannot win." Colonel Amy Foster, who led the Colonial Marines, slammed her hand on the table. "Absolutely not. If we show weakness now, they'll just demand more territory later. These aliens think they can push us around because we're new to space. We need to show them they're wrong." Other officers joined the debate. Some argued for compliance, pointing out that humanity had only been traveling between stars for 50 years. Others insisted that backing down would only encourage more alien demands. Jake listened to the arguments but found himself thinking about the mining families on Titan, the farmers on New Austin, and the researchers at Port Liberty. These were not just strategic assets or bargaining chips. They were human beings who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. Admiral Warren raised her hand for silence. "I've been in contact with Earth's government for the past 6 hours. The President and the Colonial Council have made their decision." She paused and looked around the room. "We will not abandon our colonies. Humanity will not bow to alien threats." The room erupted in voices, some cheering and others expressing concern. Jake felt a mixture of pride and fear. He was proud that humanity would stand up for itself, but he also knew they were about to face an enemy unlike anything they had ever fought. "I want all ships prepared for immediate deployment," Admiral Warren continued. "We have less than 48 hours before their deadline expires. Intelligence suggests they'll target our most isolated colonies first, trying to force us to surrender without a major battle." Colonel Foster stood up. "What about ground defenses? If they try to invade our colonies, we need to be ready for land. Battles, too." "Already in progress," the Admiral replied. "Marine units are being deployed to every major settlement. We're also evacuating non-essential civilians from the most vulnerable locations." Jake thought about his own ship and crew. The Vanguard was a good vessel with experienced officers, but it had been designed for patrol duties and fighting pirates, not alien warships. Still, it was what they had, and they would make it work. As the meeting broke up, Jake approached Admiral Warren privately. "Admiral, do we have any idea what their ships are capable of?" She shook her head. "Our intelligence is limited, but satellite observations suggest their vessels are at least twice the size of our largest ships. They seem to rely heavily on energy weapons and defensive shields. Any weaknesses? Unknown. We'll have to learn as we fight." She put her hand on his shoulder. "Jake, I'm assigning you to lead the advanced scout group. Your job is to gather intelligence on their capabilities and tactics. Stay alive and report back everything you see." Jake saluted. "Understood, Admiral. The Vanguard won't let you down." As he walked back to his ship, Jake thought about the message from Supreme Commander Vextar. The alien had seemed so confident, so certain that humanity would submit without a fight. Maybe that confidence would work against them. After all, humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and 2 world wars. They were tougher than they looked. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked through her 3rd straight night in the research lab aboard Luna Station, surrounded by pieces of destroyed Zephyrian technology. The alien wreckage from the Proxima Centauri battle had provided humanity with its first real look at the enemy's capabilities, and what she had discovered both excited and worried her. The alien neural interfaces were incredibly advanced, allowing instant communication between crew members and direct mental control of ship systems. But Elena had found something interesting in the damaged circuits. The technology relied on a specific frequency that could be disrupted with the right kind of electromagnetic pulse. "Admiral Warren," Elena called through her communicator. "I need to speak with you immediately. I've found something important." 20 minutes later, Admiral Warren arrived in the lab with General Pete Williams, the tough Marine commander who would be leading any ground operations against the aliens. Both officers looked tired from the constant planning and preparation for the expanding war. "What do you have for us, Doctor?" Admiral Warren asked, examining the alien technology scattered across Elena's workbench. Elena picked up a damaged neural interface helmet. "This device allows the aliens to control their ships with their thoughts, but it has a weakness. If we can generate the right kind of electromagnetic interference, we can disrupt their neural connections and leave them temporarily helpless." General Williams leaned forward with interest. "How temporarily?" "Based on my analysis, probably 15 to 20 minutes. Long enough for a boarding party to take control of their ship or for our forces to target their vulnerable systems." Admiral Warren nodded slowly. "This could change everything. Can you develop a weapon that generates this interference?" "I'm already working on it," Elena replied. "But we'll need to test it in actual combat to be sure it works." While Elena continued her research, General Williams was preparing for a different kind of warfare. Intelligence reports suggested that the aliens would try to capture human colonies intact rather than destroy them completely. This meant ground invasions were likely, and the general wanted to be ready. Captain Ashley Brown stood in the briefing room at Camp Pendleton, studying the holographic display that showed the layout of Kepler 442b, a human agricultural colony that grew food for 6 other systems. The planet had wide-open plains perfect for farming, but also thick forests and mountain ranges that could provide cover for defending forces. "The aliens have never fought a ground war against humans," General Williams explained to the assembled Marine officers. "They're used to dealing with species that surrender after their fleets are defeated. They don't understand that humans will keep fighting even when the odds are hopeless." Ashley had studied every piece of information available about alien ground forces. The Zephyrians were tall and strong, but they relied heavily on their technology and seemed to lack the adaptability that made human soldiers dangerous. Their tactics were rigid and predictable, based on overwhelming firepower rather than clever maneuvering. "Captain Brown," the general continued, "I'm giving you command of Strike Team Alpha. Your mission is to hit the alien supply depot on Kepler 442b. Intelligence suggests they're using it to stockpile equipment for a major offensive against the inner colonies." Ashley studied the mission details. The supply depot was located in a valley surrounded by hills, with only 2 access roads. The aliens had placed defensive positions around the facility, but they were designed to stop conventional attacks from other alien forces, not the kind of unconventional warfare that humans specialized in. "Sir, I recommend we approach through the forest on the north side," Ashley said, pointing to the holographic map. "The trees will provide cover from their sensors, and we can establish observation posts on the high ground before launching our attack." The mission launched 3 days later. Ashley led 200 Marines in a stealth insertion, using small transport ships that could avoid alien detection systems. The journey to Kepler 442b took 18 hours, during which Ashley reviewed the plan with her squad leaders. Sergeant Tony Rodriguez, a veteran of the Mars Rebellion, would lead the demolition team responsible for destroying the supply depot's main storage facilities. Corporal Kate Sullivan would command the sniper teams that would provide cover for the assault. Lieutenant Chris Thompson would handle communications and coordinate with any civilian resistance groups on the planet. The Marines landed at night in a forest clearing 20 kilometers from the alien base. Ashley had chosen the landing site, carefully, using satellite data to find a location that was far enough from alien patrols, but close enough to reach the target before dawn. The march through the forest was slow and careful. Ashley's Marines moved in small groups, using hand signals and staying off the established trails. They had trained for this kind of operation on Earth, but fighting in an alien environment added new challenges. The alien guards at the supply depot were not expecting trouble from humans. The Zephyrians had posted sentries around the perimeter, but they were watching for attacks from the air or along the access roads. They had not considered that human soldiers might approach through difficult terrain that their own forces would never attempt to cross. Ashley positioned her Marines on the hills overlooking the depot just as the sun began to rise. Through her binoculars, she could see dozens of alien soldiers moving around the facility, loading and unloading supplies from transport ships. The base was larger than intelligence had suggested, with enough equipment to supply a major invasion. "Force! All teams, this is Brown," Ashley whispered into her radio. "Begin Phase 1. Corporal Sullivan's snipers opened fire first, their enhanced rifles taking out the alien sentries with precision shots. The aliens were caught completely off guard, running around in confusion as their comrades fell without any visible enemy. Sergeant Rodriguez led his demolition team down the hillside, moving from cover to cover as they approached the main storage buildings. The aliens tried to organize a defense, but they had no experience fighting an enemy that used the terrain instead of attacking directly. The battle lasted only 40 minutes. When it was over, the alien supply depot was burning, and more than 300 Zephyrian soldiers were dead or captured. Ashley's Marines had suffered only 12 casualties, and they had captured enough alien weapons and equipment to supply a regiment. But the most important discovery came when Lieutenant Thompson interrogated the captured alien commander. The Zephyrian officer, shocked by the unexpected defeat, revealed that the Galactic Council had been planning to use Kepler 442b as a staging area for attacks on Earth itself. "They were going to attack our home planet," Ashley reported to Admiral Warren during the mission debriefing. "This wasn't just about the outer colonies. They want to destroy humanity completely." Admiral Warren's expression was grim as she absorbed this information. "Dr. Rodriguez's neural disruptor weapons are almost ready for field testing. Combined with what you've learned about their ground tactics, we might have a real chance to turn this war around." Ashley nodded, but she was thinking about the alien commander's words during the interrogation. The Zephyrian had seemed genuinely surprised that humans would fight so hard for what he called worthless rocks in space. He could not understand why anyone would risk their lives for colonies and mining stations. That lack of understanding was becoming a pattern among their alien enemies. The Galactic Council saw the war as a simple matter of superior forces defeating inferior ones. They did not grasp that humans were not fighting for territory or resources, but for the right to exist as a free species. As news of the successful raid spread through human space, more colonies began organizing their own resistance groups. Civilian miners learned to modify their equipment into weapons. Farmers turned their knowledge of local terrain into advantages for guerrilla warfare. Scientists like Dr. Rodriguez worked around the clock to develop new technologies that could level the playing field. The aliens had started this war expecting a quick victory over a primitive species. Instead, they were discovering that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers, but their refusal to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. Captain Ashley Brown understood this as she prepared her Marines for the next mission. The aliens had superior ships and weapons, but they did not have the one thing that mattered most in war. They did not have the willingness to sacrifice everything for the chance to remain free. That willingness would make all the difference in the battles to come. The emergency session of the Galactic Council took place in the massive crystal chambers of the Zephyrian homeworld. Supreme Commander Vexitar stood before representatives of 6 alien species, his golden armor now showing battle scars from recent encounters with human forces. "The humans are proving more resilient than anticipated," Vexitar admitted to the assembled council members. "Our intelligence underestimated their tactical flexibility and willingness to accept casualties." Council leader Zixmar, a tall insectoid creature from the hive worlds, clicked his mandibles in displeasure. "You assured us this would be a simple matter of removing a primitive species from disputed territory. Instead, we have lost 12 ships and 3 ground installations." "The situation remains under control," Vexitar insisted. "I am committing additional fleets from the reserve forces. The Keltorian battle group will join our forces, along with Maraxian siege ships and Vortec assault troops." The assembled aliens murmured their approval. With 3 additional species contributing their strongest military assets, the human resistance would surely be crushed within weeks. Meanwhile, in the war room at Luna Station, Admiral Lisa Warren was planning humanity's response to this escalation. Intelligence reports indicated that massive alien reinforcements were moving toward human space, including ship designs that Earth's forces had never encountered before. "We can't match them ship for ship," Admiral Warren told her assembled commanders. "But we don't have to. Operation Ironstorm will hit them where they're vulnerable, disrupting their supply lines and communication networks across multiple systems simultaneously." Captain Jake Morrison studied the battle plans on the holographic display. The operation would require precise timing and coordination between 17 different human fleets, striking alien logistics bases at exactly the same moment to prevent the enemy from responding effectively. "Admiral," Jake said, "the aliens will expect us to defend our colonies. They won't be prepared for offensive operations deep in their own territory." "Exactly," Admiral Warren replied. "Dr. Rodriguez has completed her neural disruptor weapons. Each strike team will carry at least 1 prototype device. If they work as expected, we should be able to disable alien ships long enough to capture or destroy them." Across human space, preparations for Iron Storm continued at a frantic pace. The plan was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted, requiring coordination across dozens of star systems and precise timing, despite the vast distances involved. Commander Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the experimental ship, EDS Reaper watching her crew make final preparations for their part in the operation. The Reaper was humanity's first attempt at building a ship specifically designed to fight aliens, incorporating captured technology with human engineering innovations. The ship looked different from traditional human vessels. Its hull was covered in angular armor plates that could deflect energy weapons, while its engines used a hybrid design that combined human fusion reactors with alien gravity manipulation systems. Most importantly, it carried the first production model of Dr. Rodriguez's neural disruptor. "Commander," her weapons officer reported, "the disruptor device is fully charged and ready for deployment." Kate nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The Reaper's mission was to assault the heavily defended Zephyrian space fortress at Tau Ceti, a facility that intelligence described as impregnable. If the neural disruptor worked, they might prove that assessment wrong. Operation Iron Storm began at exactly 0600 hours, Earth Standard Time. Across 17 star systems, human forces emerged from hiding places among asteroids, gas giant moons, and nebula clouds. The aliens had been expecting another defensive battle, not a coordinated offensive that struck at the heart of their military infrastructure. Jake Morrison led the assault on the alien command center at Wolf 359, using the tactics that had proven successful at Proxima Centauri. His ships darted between the system's dense asteroid field, striking fast and disappearing before the alien defenders could respond effectively. The first use of the neural disruptor came when Jake's fleet encountered a Zephyrian cruiser guarding the command station. The alien ship was 3 times larger than the Vanguard and heavily armed. But when Jake activated the disruptor device, the enemy vessel suddenly went dark. It worked, Lieutenant Sam Carter reported from her station. The alien ship has lost all power and is drifting. Jake watched in amazement as the massive Zephyrian cruiser floated helplessly in space, its crew presumably struggling with disrupted neural interfaces. The ship's weapons were silent, its engines offline, and its shields down. "All ships, target the disabled cruiser," Jake ordered. "Concentrate fire on their engine section." The combined firepower of Jake's fleet tore through the alien ship's unprotected hull in minutes. When the shooting stopped, the cruiser was a drifting wreck, proof that human ingenuity could overcome even the most advanced alien technology. Similar scenes played out across multiple star systems as Operation Iron Storm unfolded. Human forces struck at supply depots, communication relays, and forward bases with devastating effectiveness. The aliens, caught completely off guard by the scope and coordination of the attack, lost more ships and facilities in 6 hours than they had in the previous month of fighting. But the most spectacular success came at Tau Ceti, where Commander Kate Sullivan led the Reaper against the supposedly impregnable Zephyrian fortress. The massive station was protected by energy shields that could withstand bombardment from entire fleets, surrounded by defensive platforms that could destroy any approaching ship. Kate brought the Reaper in fast, using the ship's advanced engines to close the distance before the alien defenders could react. When she activated the neural disruptor at close range, the effects were more dramatic than anyone had expected. The fortress's shields flickered and died as alien crew members lost control of their neural interfaces. Defensive platforms stopped, firing as their operators struggled with disrupted brain functions. For 20 minutes, one of the most powerful military installations in the galaxy was completely helpless. Kate did not waste the opportunity. The Reaper's weapons, enhanced with captured alien technology, poured destructive energy into the fortress's critical systems. Secondary explosions rippled across the station as power cores overloaded and ammunition storage areas detonated. When the neural disruptor's effects wore off, the fortress was a gutted shell, its massive structure cracked and burning. The psychological impact on alien morale was enormous. If humans could destroy a fortress that had been considered invulnerable, what else might they be capable of? The success of Operation Iron Storm sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. 3 member species that had been considering joining the war against humanity suddenly decided to remain neutral. Others began questioning whether the Zephyrian Empire's assessment of human capabilities had been accurate. Supreme Commander Vextar found himself under increasing pressure from the Council to end the war quickly before human resistance could inspire other species to challenge the established order. The humans had demonstrated tactical abilities and technological innovation that threatened the very foundation of the Galactic Council's authority. But Admiral Warren was already planning the next phase of humanity's response. The neural disruptor, had proven that human science could match or exceed alien technology when combined with creative thinking. More importantly, the coordinated success of Iron Storm had shown that humanity could fight as a unified force across vast distances. Captain Ashley Brown received new orders to prepare the colonial marines for large-scale offensive operations. Instead of defending human colonies, they would begin capturing alien installations and freeing subjugated species that had been forced to serve the Galactic Council. As reports from Operation Iron Storm reached Earth, the planet's population began to understand that they were not just fighting for survival, but for the future of human independence in the galaxy. The aliens had expected to crush a primitive species, but instead they were facing an opponent that grew stronger with each battle. The war was entering a new phase, one where humanity would no longer simply react to alien aggression, but would take the initiative and carry the fight to their enemy's territory. The universe was beginning to learn that humanity was not a species that could be easily intimidated or defeated. The aliens had wanted a war, and now they were getting one that would exceed their worst nightmares. The first alien defector arrived at Luna Station on a stolen Keltorian scout ship, its blue hull scarred from weapons fire. The pilot was a young Maraxian named Gorin, a reptilian creature whose species had been forced into the Galactic Council, alliance after their homeworld was conquered 50 years earlier. Admiral Lisa Warren stood in the docking bay as security teams escorted the alien pilot to a secure briefing room. This was humanity's first direct contact with a potential ally, and she wanted to handle the situation carefully. "Why did you come here?" Admiral Warren asked through a translation device, studying the nervous alien across the metal table. Gorin's scaled hands shook slightly as he spoke. "Because you showed us something we thought was impossible. You proved that the Council can be defeated. My people have suffered under Zephyrian rule for decades, but we never believed we could fight back and win." The Maraxian explained that news of Operation Iron Storm had spread through the alien alliance, creating doubt and fear among species that had been forced to serve the Council. For the first time, subjugated worlds were beginning to consider rebellion against their oppressors. "What can you tell us about their military capabilities?" Admiral Warren asked. Gorin provided detailed information about alien ship designs, weapons, systems, and tactical doctrines. More importantly, he revealed the locations of secret military bases and the composition of fleets that were being assembled to crush human resistance. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez worked with Gorin to modify human ships with alien technology, creating hybrid vessels that combined the best features of both designs. The results were impressive. Human ships equipped with alien gravity drives became faster and more maneuverable, while alien energy weapons enhanced with human targeting systems became devastatingly accurate. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral after his successes, in the early battles, stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the EDS Liberty. The ship represented the evolution of human naval technology, combining lessons learned from months of combat with innovations that no alien species had ever attempted. "Admiral," his communication officer reported, "we're receiving a priority. Message from Earth Command. The Zephyrian Empire is assembling their largest fleet ever at the Vega system. Intelligence estimates over 200 ships, including their newest Dreadnought-class vessels." Jake studied the tactical data with growing excitement rather than fear. The aliens were finally committing their main battle fleet to a decisive engagement, exactly what humanity needed to prove that they could defeat any force the Galactic Council could assemble. "Signal all human fleets," Jake ordered. "We're moving to intercept at Vega." This is our chance to end their ability to threaten human space. The Battle of Vega Prime began when Jake's combined fleet of 60 ships encountered the massive alien armada. The size difference was staggering. Zephyrian dreadnoughts dwarfed even the largest human vessels, their hulls bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. But Admiral Morrison had learned from studying every previous engagement with alien forces. Size and firepower meant nothing if they could not hit their targets, and human ships had become masters of unpredictable movement and coordinated attacks. All ships, implement Formation Delta 7, Jake commanded. Remember, we're not trying to slug it out with them. We're going to make them defeat themselves. The human fleet scattered into small groups that approached the alien formation from multiple directions simultaneously. Each group used different tactics, some employing hit-and-run attacks, while others used the neural disruptors to disable key enemy vessels. The alien commander, Supreme Admiral Kexvoid, tried to respond with traditional battle formations, but his massive ships were too slow to adjust to the constantly changing human tactics. When he ordered his fleet to concentrate firepower on one human group, 3 others would attack from different angles. Lieutenant Sam Carter, now commanding her own destroyer, led a squadron that targeted the alien command ship's communication arrays. Her ships darted between the massive dreadnoughts like fish swimming around whales, too small and fast for the aliens' heavy weapons to track effectively. The tide of battle turned when Admiral Morrison spotted a weakness in the alien formation. The Zephyrian ships were staying close together to provide mutual support, but this created a massive target for humanity's new weapon: quantum torpedo clusters that could punch through multiple ships with a single shot. "All heavy cruisers target the center of their formation," Jake ordered. "Fire everything we have." 20 human ships opened fire simultaneously, their quantum torpedoes streaking across space in brilliant lines of energy. The weapons struck the alien fleet's center, where the massive ships were packed too tightly to maneuver effectively. The results exceeded even Jake's optimistic expectations. The quantum torpedoes tore through the first line of alien ships and continued into the second and third lines, creating a chain reaction of explosions that rippled through the entire enemy formation. Supreme Admiral Kexavoid watched in horror as 12 of his dreadnoughts exploded in the space of 30 seconds. The carefully planned battle formation collapsed as surviving ships tried to escape the spreading destruction. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost 37% of our fleet. The humans are regrouping for another attack." Kexvoid had never experienced anything like this in 40 years of military service. Human tactics defied every principle of space warfare that the Galactic Council had developed over centuries. Their ships moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually coordinated with mathematical precision. The battle lasted 6 hours, but the outcome was decided in the first 30 minutes. When the shooting finally stopped, the Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed as an effective fighting force. Over 150 alien ships were either destroyed or disabled, while human losses totaled only 18 vessels. More importantly, 3 alien species formally surrendered to Admiral Morrison during the battle itself. The Keltorian fleet commander, Captain Vexneal, transmitted a message offering his ship's service to humanity rather than face complete destruction. "Why are you surrendering to us?" Jake asked during the post-battle communication. "Because you fight with honor," Captain Vexneal replied. "The Zephyrians rule through fear and intimidation. You have shown that there is another way, a path where different species can work together as equals rather than masters and slaves." The news of humanity's victory at Vega Prime spread through the galaxy faster than any previous battle report. On dozens of worlds, subjugated species began organizing resistance movements. The Galactic Council's carefully maintained order started to crumble as member species questioned whether the Alliance still served their interests. Admiral Warren received reports of alien defections from across the galaxy. Entire fleets were abandoning the Council and requesting permission to join humanity's growing alliance. The Meraxians officially declared independence from Zephyrian rule and offered their advanced manufacturing capabilities to support the human war effort. Dr. Elena Rodriguez found herself working with alien scientists who brought new perspectives to human research programs. The combination of different species' knowledge was producing technological breakthroughs that none of them could have achieved alone. But perhaps the most significant change was in how other species viewed humanity itself. Before the war, humans had been seen as a young, primitive race that posed no threat to established galactic powers. Now they were recognized as a force that could unite disparate species against oppression. Captain Ashley Brown led joint human-alien ground forces in liberation campaigns across former Council territory. Her Marines worked alongside Meraxian warriors and Keltorian engineers to free worlds that had been enslaved for generations. The aliens made a crucial mistake, Ashley reported to Admiral Warren after liberating the mining world of Zerion 4. They assumed that military conquest was the only way to build an empire. They never understood that people will fight harder for freedom than they will for conquest. As reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy, Admiral Warren began to realize that humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had not only defeated a superior military force, but had inspired a galaxy-wide revolution against authoritarian rule. The Zephyrian Empire still controlled their core worlds and maintained significant military forces, but their alliance was collapsing. More importantly, they now faced an enemy that grew stronger with each passing day as more species joined the human-led coalition. Admiral Morrison received a message from Earth's government authorizing him to accept formal surrender from any alien species that requested it. Humanity had gone from fighting for survival to leading a galactic alliance dedicated to freedom and self-determination. The war was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted irreversibly. The universe was learning that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their tactics, but their ability to inspire others to fight for something greater than themselves. Major Chris Thompson adjusted his stealth suit as the transport ship approached the outer edge of the Zephyrian home system. His special operations team had been planning this mission for months, and everything depended on reaching the planet's surface without being detected by the extensive sensor networks that protected the alien capital world. 2 minutes to drop zone, announced Lieutenant Amy Foster, the pilot who had volunteered for the dangerous insertion mission. The ship, disguised as a damaged Keltorian freighter, had passed through 3 security checkpoints using forged identification, codes provided by alien defectors. Chris looked around at his team of 12 specialists, each chosen for their unique skills. Sergeant Kate Sullivan would handle electronic warfare and computer infiltration. Corporal Ryan Blake specialized in alien languages and cultural analysis. The others were experts in demolitions, communications, and close combat. Their mission was unlike anything attempted during the war. Instead of destroying alien facilities or capturing territory, they needed to gather intelligence about the Zephyrian command structure and long-term strategic plans. Admiral Warren suspected that the aliens' aggressive expansion was motivated by something more than simple conquest, and she needed answers. The drop went perfectly. Chris's team landed in a remote mountain region of the Zephyrian home world, far from the massive cities where billions of blue-skinned aliens lived and worked. They quickly buried their insertion equipment and began the long journey toward their target, the Grand Archive, a massive data storage facility that contained the collective knowledge of the Zephyrian Empire. The landscape was alien but beautiful. Purple vegetation covered rolling hills under a sky with two small suns, while strange crystalline formations jutted from the ground like frozen lightning. Chris had studied recordings of the planet's environment, but seeing it in person was still overwhelming. "Major," Sergeant Sullivan whispered into her communicator, "I'm detecting patrol aircraft about 10 kilometers to our east. Recommend we take cover in those crystal formations." The team spent the next 6 hours hiding among the glittering structures while Zephyrian aircraft searched the area. Chris used the time to study the intelligence reports one more time, memorizing the layout of the Grand Archive and the security procedures they would need to overcome. It took 3 days to reach the outskirts of Zephyros, the planet's capital city. The urban area was enormous, stretching across hundreds of kilometers with towers that reached into the clouds. Millions of aliens moved through the streets using floating vehicles and gravity-defying walkways. "I've never seen anything like this," Corporal Blake whispered as they observed the city from a hidden position. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in some areas, but they don't seem to use it for individual creativity or personal expression." Chris noticed the same thing. The Zephyrian city was impressively organized and efficient, but it lacked the chaotic diversity that characterized human settlements. Every building followed the same architectural principles, every vehicle moved in predetermined patterns, and every alien citizen seemed to follow identical daily routines. Infiltrating the Grand Archive required all of their accumulated skills and equipment. Sergeant Sullivan used captured alien technology to hack into the facility's security network, while Chris's team created diversions to draw guards away from their target area. The archive itself was a marvel of alien engineering, a crystalline structure that stored information in quantum matrices that could hold the data equivalent of entire libraries in spaces smaller than a human hand. But what Chris found in those databanks changed everything he thought he knew about the war. "My God," he whispered as he downloaded files that revealed the true scope of the Zephyrian Empire's fears. "They're not expanding because they want to conquer the galaxy. They're running from something." The classified documents revealed that long-range sensors had detected massive ships approaching from intergalactic space, vessels so large they could be seen across the void between galaxies. The Zephyrian Empire's aggressive expansion was an attempt to unite the galaxy under a single military command that could face this external threat. According to the files, the approaching ships belonged to something called the Devourers, a machine, intelligence that had already consumed several nearby galaxies. The Zephyrians estimated that the alien fleet would reach their galaxy within 5 years, and they believed that only a unified galactic military force could hope to survive the encounter. "Sir," Corporal Blake reported from another data terminal, "I'm finding records of previous Devourer encounters. They don't just conquer civilizations, they completely consume them. Every planet they touch becomes a lifeless husk." Chris felt his stomach turn as he read the detailed reports. The Devourers appeared to be self-replicating machines that converted organic matter and raw materials into more of themselves. They had destroyed entire star clusters, leaving nothing behind but empty space and cosmic debris. But the most disturbing discovery came when Chris accessed the Zephyrian Empire's strategic planning files. The aliens had calculated that stopping the Devourers would require sacrificing at least 60% of the galaxy's population, using inhabited worlds as buffers to slow the machine advance while military forces prepared defensive positions. They were planning to use human space as a sacrifice zone, Chris realized with growing horror. Our colonies would be the first line of defense, expected to fight and die while the alien core worlds prepared their real defenses. The mission took an unexpected turn when Chris's team was discovered by archive security. Alarms blared through the crystal corridors as Zephyrian guards rushed toward their position. The team fought their way out using superior human tactics and alien weapons they had captured during the infiltration, but their escape was complicated by an encounter with Dr. Meltaran, a Zephyrian scientist who had been working on anti-devourer technologies. Instead of raising the alarm, the alien scientist approached Chris with an unexpected offer. "I know who you are and why you are here," Dr. Meltaran said through a translation device. "I have been hoping that someone would come who could offer an alternative to our empire's brutal plans." The scientist explained that many Zephyrians opposed their government's strategy of forced galactic unification. They believed that cooperation and voluntary alliance would be more effective than conquest and intimidation, but they had been suppressed by the military leadership. "Your species has shown capabilities that our strategists never anticipated," Dr. Meltaran continued. "Your tactical innovations and ability to inspire loyalty in other species could be exactly what we need to defeat the Devourers without sacrificing billions of lives." Chris made a crucial decision. Instead of simply extracting with the stolen intelligence, he arranged for Dr. Meltaran and several other dissident scientists to defect to human space. The aliens brought with them detailed plans for anti-devourer weapons and comprehensive intelligence about the approaching threat. The extraction was harrowing. Chris's team had to fight their way through increasingly desperate Zephyrian security forces while protecting their alien allies. Lieutenant Foster arrived with extraction ships just as the team reached the rendezvous point, and the escape from the planet involved a running battle with Zephyrian interceptors. When they finally reached safety at a secret human base, Chris immediately reported his findings to Admiral Warren. The revelation that the Zephyrian aggression was motivated by fear rather than simple conquest changed the entire strategic picture of the war. "Admiral," Chris concluded his report, "we're not just fighting for human independence anymore. We're fighting for the survival of the entire galaxy. The Zephyrians chose the wrong method, but they were right about the threat." Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked with the defected Zephyrian scientists to analyze the Devourer threat and develop countermeasures. The alien technology combined with human innovation produced weapons concepts that neither species could have developed alone. Admiral Warren faced a difficult decision. The intelligence gathered by Chris's team revealed that the Zephyrian Empire was genuinely trying to prepare for an existential threat to all galactic life. But their methods involved the subjugation and sacrifice of countless species, including humanity. "We need to find a third option," Admiral Warren told her staff during the strategic planning session. "We can't let the Devourers destroy the galaxy, but we also can't accept the Zephyrian plan to sacrifice entire civilizations. The solution would require humanity to do something unprecedented in galactic history: unite former enemies against a common threat while maintaining the principles of freedom and self-determination that had made their resistance successful." Major. Thompson's mission had revealed that the war was entering a new phase, one where humanity would need to lead not just a military alliance, but a complete transformation of how galactic civilization approached existential threats. The universe was about to learn whether human ideals of cooperation and voluntary alliance could prove more effective than the traditional methods of conquest and forced unification. The first detection came from long-range sensors at the edge of the galaxy, operated by a joint human-Maraxian observation post. Commander Kate Sullivan watched the readings with growing alarm as massive objects appeared on the screens, moving through empty space at impossible speeds. "Sir," her sensor technician reported, "I'm reading energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. The objects are approximately 50 kilometers in length and appear to be artificial constructs." Kate studied the data with the growing realization that the moment Dr. Mel Taryn had warned them about was finally arriving. The Devourers had reached the galaxy's edge, and their advanced scout ships were already beginning their terrible work. "Send an immediate priority alert to Admiral Warren," Kate ordered. "Include all sensor data and our projected timeline for their arrival in inhabited systems." The emergency session at Luna Station brought together representatives from every species in the growing human alliance. Admiral Lisa Warren stood before the assembled delegates, displaying the terrifying images captured by the edge sensors. "The Devourer ships are larger than our biggest space stations," Admiral Warren explained to the hushed audience. "Our analysis suggests that each vessel is a self-contained factory capable of converting raw matter into more machines. They consume everything in their path." Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented the technological analysis that she and the defected Zephyrian scientists had compiled. "The machines appear to use some form of matter conversion technology that breaks down atomic bonds and rebuilds the material into their own components. Planets, ships, even stars can be consumed if they have enough time." Admiral Jake Morrison studied the tactical projections with the eye of someone who had spent years fighting seemingly impossible battles. "How long do we have before they reach the core systems?" "Based on their current speed and trajectory," Dr. Rodriguez replied, "approximately 18 months before they enter the outer colonies, maybe 3 years before they reach Earth." The assembled delegates erupted in worried discussions. Representatives from a dozen different species tried to process the implications of facing an enemy that could literally consume their home worlds. Supreme Commander Vex Tar, the former Zephyrian leader who had recently agreed to a ceasefire, spoke from his position at the back of the chamber. "This is why my empire sought to unite the galaxy under our command. The Devourers cannot be negotiated with or reasoned with. They must be stopped by overwhelming force." Admiral Warren nodded respectfully to her former enemy. "Your concerns were valid, Commander, but your methods would have left us weaker, not stronger. A galaxy united by conquest would not have the flexibility and innovation we need to defeat this threat." The debate continued for hours as military leaders, scientists, and political representatives struggled to develop a strategy for facing an enemy unlike anything in galactic history. Traditional warfare tactics were useless against machines that could convert destroyed ships into raw materials for building more of themselves. Admiral Morrison proposed the foundation of what would become known as the Galactic Defense Coalition. Unlike the Zephyrian Empire's forced alliance, this organization would be based on voluntary cooperation and shared command responsibility. "Every species brings unique capabilities to this fight," Admiral Morrison explained. "Human tactical flexibility, Zephyrian industrial capacity, Maraxian engineering expertise, Keltorian manufacturing efficiency. Together we can develop solutions that none of us could create alone." The Coalition's first major project was establishing a series of observation posts throughout the galaxy's edge regions. Captain Ashley Brown led the deployment of joint military units to monitor the Devourer advance and gather intelligence about their capabilities and weaknesses. What they discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The Devourer machines showed signs of advanced artificial intelligence, but they seemed to follow rigid programming that limited their tactical flexibility. They consumed resources in predictable patterns and responded to threats using standardized procedures. "They're incredibly advanced, but they're not creative," Ashley reported during a coalition strategy meeting. "They adapt to new situations by analyzing data and implementing predetermined responses. They don't improvise the way organic species do." This observation led to the development of humanity's most important contribution to the galactic defense: asymmetric warfare tactics, designed to confuse and disrupt machine intelligence. Human commanders began training coalition forces in unpredictable attack patterns and innovative strategies that no machine could anticipate. Dr. Rodriguez worked with scientists from 6 different species to develop new weapons specifically designed to disrupt the Devourer's matter conversion technology. The breakthrough came when they discovered that quantum interference could temporarily disable the machine's ability to process raw materials. "If we can generate the right kind of quantum field," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the assembled researchers, "we can force the machines to shut down their conversion systems for several minutes. That gives us a window to attack their vulnerable components." The first field test of these quantum disruptor weapons took place when a small Devourer scout force encountered coalition defenses at the Kepler-186 system. Admiral Morrison commanded the defending fleet, which included ships from 8 different species working together under human tactical coordination. The battle was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. The Devourer machines attacked in perfect formation, their weapons cutting through space with mathematical precision. But the coalition forces responded with chaotic, unpredictable maneuvers that confused the machine targeting systems. "All ships, implement pattern Omega-7, Admiral Morrison commanded, referring to a tactical formation that combined human creativity with alien technology in ways no machine could anticipate. The coalition ships moved in seemingly random directions, but their movements were actually carefully coordinated to create overlapping fields of quantum disruption. When the fields activated, the Devourer ships suddenly lost their ability to convert destroyed coalition vessels into raw materials. Commander: Kate Sullivan led a squadron of hybrid human-Keltorian fighters in precision strikes against the disabled machines. Her pilots had trained for months to exploit the brief vulnerability windows created by the quantum disruptors. "Target their central processing nodes," Kate commanded as her fighters darted between the massive Devourer ships. "Remember, we only have minutes before their systems come back online." The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Devourer scout force. More importantly, the coalition had captured several damaged machines for detailed analysis, providing invaluable intelligence about their construction and weaknesses. Supreme Commander Vextar, who had observed the battle from Admiral Morrison's flagship, was forced to admit that the human approach to Galactic Alliance was proving more effective than his empire's authoritarian methods. "Your species continues to surprise me," Vexatar told Admiral Morrison after the battle. "I spent decades believing that military discipline and unified command were the keys to victory. But your forces fight with a coordination that comes from trust rather than fear." The success at Kepler-186 led to rapid expansion of the Galactic Defense Coalition. Species that had remained neutral throughout the Humans-Epherian War now requested membership, bringing additional resources and capabilities to the growing alliance. But time was running short. long-range sensors detected increasingly large devourer formations moving through the galaxy's outer regions, consuming uninhabited systems and growing stronger with each conquest. The main invasion force would arrive within months, and it would be thousands of times larger than the scout groups they had faced so far. Admiral Warren began coordinating the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Shipyards across, hundreds of worlds worked around the clock to build coalition vessels incorporating the best technology from every member species. Training centers taught organic crews how to fight alongside artificial intelligences that had been reprogrammed to counter machine logic with creative thinking. Captain Chris Thompson led special operations teams deep into devourer-occupied territory, gathering intelligence and sabotaging machine installations. What he discovered was that the machines were not just consuming random systems, but were building toward some kind of massive construction project in the galaxy's core region. "They're not just here to consume resources," Chris reported to the Coalition command staff. "They're building something enormous, something that could threaten other galaxies if we don't stop them here." As the pieces of the puzzle came together, the Coalition leadership realized they were facing more than just an invasion. The Devourers were using their galaxy as a construction site for creating an even larger machine intelligence, one that could consume entire galactic clusters. The final battle would not just determine the survival of their civilization, but the fate of countless other galaxies that the machines would target next. Humanity had gone from fighting for their independence to leading a coalition that bore responsibility for protecting the entire universe from mechanical annihilation.